The infant Lionel Jonson arrived on the dense, shadow-haunted forests of Caliban, a world defined by its vicious ecosystem and sprawling woodlands populated by monstrous beasts. Left to his own devices, he survived alone in the wilderness, an upbringing that honed his instincts and endurance to superhuman levels. The terrifying creatures that prowled Caliban became his earliest adversaries, shaping him into a figure of relentless strength and acute awareness, traits that set him apart from any normal man. After years in isolation, Lion was discovered by the Knights of a martial society known as the Order. The Knight Luther, known for his discernment, recognized something exceptional in the wild youth and convinced his fellow knights to spare him. Under Luther's mentorship, Lion transformed from a silent predator to a leader, learning both the ways of warfare and the values of honor and camaraderie. Luther gave him his name, L. Jonson, or Son of the Forest, marking the beginning of a powerful, if eventually tragic, bond between them. Over time, the Lion's strength and cunning made him a central figure in the Order. Under his guidance, the Knights launched a crusade to rid Caliban of the great beasts, uniting the world's knightly factions to hunt down these nightmares. His victory brought peace to Caliban, and his name became a legend. But his accomplishment on Caliban would soon pale in comparison to what awaited him in the stars, for a much greater power had taken notice of his deeds. When the Emperor of Mankind descended upon Caliban, he recognized Lionel Jonson as his lost son and Primarch of the First Legion, the Dark Angels. Elevated to a status few could comprehend, Lion took command of the legion that had awaited him since its formation, renaming it in honor of the ancient legends of Caliban. The Emperor's vision expanded the Lion's purpose far beyond Caliban's woods, as he now stood as the Emperor's weapon against the darkness threatening humanity across the galaxy. Caliban's finest warriors were folded into the ranks of the Dark Angels, creating a hybrid legion of Terrans and Calibanites that Lion led with a disciplined iron will. The Rangdan genocide marked one of the most grueling campaigns of the Great Crusade. This Xenos threat was a brutal and unyielding foe, requiring relentless resolve to extinguish. L. Jonson's strategies were pitiless and unrelenting, earning him both fear and respect as the Dark Angels purged entire systems of alien life. The sheer scale of destruction demanded by the campaign weighed heavily on the Legion, and Lion's character hardened, increasingly adopting an austere, almost detached demeanor. The experiences of the Xenocides instilled in him a resolve to protect humanity at any cost, a duty he pursued with singular devotion. Among his Primarch brothers, L. Jonson was a paradox, respected for his brilliance, yet often misunderstood. His taciturn and calculating nature sparked tension, particularly with the fiery Leman Russ. The two were opposites in many ways, with Russ embodying blunt honesty and the Lion embodying strategic secrecy. With others like Robute Gilliman and Rogel Dorn, he shared a mutual understanding and appreciation for methodical warfare, though even these bonds were marked by subtle rivalries. The Lion's relationships with his kin were often restrained, shaped by a fierce independence and the lingering isolation born of his Caliban origins. However, his relationship with Luther, once his closest ally, began to fracture. As L. Jonson was drawn deeper into the Emperor's grand vision, he entrusted Luther to govern Caliban, a task that Luther approached with mixed feelings. The Lion's prolonged absence became a point of resentment for Luther, who felt he was sidelined despite his loyalty. Unbeknownst to L. Jonson, seeds of bitterness took root in Luther's heart, a quiet discord that would one day bear devastating consequences. As the galaxy spiraled into civil war, Lion L. Jonson proved himself both ruthless and strategic in his loyalty to the Emperor. During this time, a fateful encounter occurred at the Alaxes Nebula, where Leman Russ and his Space Wolves found themselves cornered by the Alpha Legion in a brutal ambush. Despite their long-standing rivalry, L. Jonson led his Dark Angels into the fray to aid Russ. cutting through the Alpha Legion forces to break the trap. This act of salvation forged a brief but genuine respect between the two Primarchs, highlighting L. Jonson's unwavering sense of duty over personal enmity. Soon after, L. Jonson turned his focus to the Thramas Crusade, where he clashed repeatedly with Conrad Kurz and the Night Lords. Kurz waged a campaign of terror, spreading fear and devastation across entire systems, while L. Jonson countered with calculated efficiency, seeking to end the conflict quickly and decisively. Their rivalry came to a head in a fierce, personal duel that saw the Lion overpower Kurz, but he chose to imprison rather than execute his wayward brother. This decision left L. Jonson with a lingering unease, as he glimpsed the unrestrained brutality that could lie even within a son of the Emperor. In the aftermath of Thramas, L. Jonson journeyed to Ultramar, where he joined forces with Roboute Guilliman and Sanguinius to establish Imperium Secundus, a backup empire to serve humanity should Terra fall. Although he pledged to support the plan, L. Jonson's loyalty to the Emperor remained unshaken, and he saw Imperium Secundus as a stopgap rather than a true empire. Tension simmered between the Lion and Guilliman, as L. Jonson's strict, martial approach clashed with Guilliman's pragmatic governance, yet both shared a mutual respect born of necessity. When news reached them that Terra still stood, L. Jonson urged his brothers to dissolve Imperium Secundus and rejoin the Emperor's forces. Yet before he could set course for Terra, troubling reports drew him back to Caliban. Rumors of corruption and betrayal on his homeworld filled him with grim resolve, and he turned his fleet toward Caliban, unaware of the dark betrayal that awaited him there. Lion L. Jonson returned to Caliban to find it in open revolt. Luther, once his closest confidant, had turned against him, leading a faction of Dark Angels in defiance of the Primarch. The seeds of bitterness had blossomed into betrayal, spurred by the corruption of chaos. As L. Jonson's fleet approached, Caliban's defenses opened fire, initiating a bloody battle that shattered the world both physically and symbolically. Confronting Luther within the fortress's ruins, the two former allies met in a climactic duel, their clash resonating as a tragic symbol of loyalty torn asunder. The Lion and Luther's duel was one of both brutal force and shattered ideals. Empowered by the dark forces, Luther fought with a fury that rivaled even the Lion's legendary prowess. However, as the battle wore on, it became clear that Luther's resolve was a hollow shell, worn down by years of envy and regret. In a final act of anguish, Luther broke under the strain, and with Caliban erupting in chaos, L. Jonson was grievously wounded. The unleashed warp energies shattered Caliban, scattering Luther's followers, the Fallen, across time and space, forever marking them as exiles. Mysterious entities known as the Watchers, in the dark, took L. Jonson's broken body to the deepest reaches of the rock, the last fragment of Caliban, placing him in a stasis chamber where he would heal unseen. His legion, bereft of their Primarch, became known as the Unforgiven, dedicated to an eternal mission to hunt down the Fallen and bring them to justice. The Lion's secretive disappearance became a closely guarded mystery, with only the highest ranks knowing of his true faith. Millennia passed, and Lion L. Jonson faded into legend, a story shared in whispers among the Dark Angels. In the 41st millennium, amidst the chaos of the era Indomitus, the Lion finally stirred from his stasis, rising once more to defend humanity. The Primarch, who had walked in shadow and held loyalty as his highest virtue, returned to find an Imperium in dire need, prepared to resume his duty with the same relentless conviction that had defined his very action.